Good morning to all my followers. I appreciate any love and support that you are giving me, for I'm just a woman trying to make a difference in this world. I grew up exposed to pornography as a child. It seriously, dramatically altered my judgment on what is healthy sexually and what is not. This is very important information. If it doesn't apply to you, simply let it fly and have a wonderful day. But if it does, please share this so this information can get out to help someone in their journey of healing towards their exposure of pornography, especially as a child.
All right, let's get real for a second. Porn is everywhere. It's accessible, it's normalized, and for many people, it's just another form of entertainment. No different from scrolling through social media or binge watching a Netflix series. But here's the problem. No one talks about what's happening behind the scenes. In your brain, in your mind, and in your life. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, oh great, another lecture about how porn is bad, let's make one thing clear. This isn't about guilt tripping or pushing some outdated moral argument. This is about science. It's about understanding what porn actually does to your brain on a neurological and psychological level. The truth is, porn isn't just harmless fun. It's a supercharged dopamine hit that can rewire your brain in ways you probably never imagined. And here's the kicker. The effects are a lot more similar to drug addiction than most people realize. But nobody tells you that. Instead, we're surrounded by a culture that laughs it off. Oh, everyone watches it.
Are you looking to establish your business using an address other than your home? Wish you had a
Culture that laughs it off. Oh, everyone watches it. It's just a phase. It's better than cheating, right? Well, what if I told you that excessive porn consumption might be rewiring your brain in a way that actually makes real-life intimacy harder? What if I told you it could be killing your motivation, warping your perception of relationships, and even messing with your ability to make smart decisions? That's what we're diving into today. No fluff, no preaching. Just the hard facts about what's happening inside your brain when you keep feeding it endless streams of hyper-stimulating digital content. Because if you want to take back control of your mind, your focus, your relationships, you need to know what you're up against. You need to understand how the addiction cycle works, how it hijacks your reward system, and most importantly, how you can break free from it. So buckle up. This might just change the way you look at porn forever. All right, let's break this down. No fluff, no scare tactics, just the raw scientific truth about what's happening in your brain when you keep feeding it porn. Your brain is a well-oiled machine designed to seek pleasure and avoid pain. It's been wired this way for survival. When you eat, laugh, or achieve something, your brain rewards you with dopamine, a chemical that makes you feel good. This system is what keeps us motivated, what drives us to chase success, relationships, and experiences that enrich our lives. But here's the problem. Not all dopamine hits are created equal. Some come from natural, fulfilling experiences, like deep conversations, creative breakthroughs, or genuine human connection. Others come from shortcuts, artificial highs that flood your brain with so much dopamine that it completely throws off the balance. Porn? It's one of the biggest dopamine traps out there. It doesn't just give you a hit, it hijacks your reward system like a hacker breaking into a mainframe. Every click, every scene, every novelty you chase, it's sending waves of dopamine through your brain at a rate far higher than anything found in the natural world. And here's the kicker, your brain isn't designed for this kind of constant stimulation. The more you flood it with dopamine, the more it starts adjusting. Your receptors become less sensitive. You need more of the stimulus just to feel the same effect. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's the exact same cycle that happens with drugs. At first it's just curiosity. Then it's habit. Then, before you know it, it's a crutch. You start needing it, not because you want to, but because your brain has rewired itself to crave it. And that's where things get dangerous. Let's talk about something called neuroplasticity. Your brain's ability to reshape itself based on what you repeatedly do. It's a powerful force, responsible for both learning and addiction. Every time you watch porn, your brain is making connections. It's forming new pathways. These pathways say, porn equals pleasure. Porn equals relief. Porn equals satisfaction. The more you reinforce these connections, the stronger they become, like carving deep grooves into a dirt road. Over time, your brain becomes wired to seek porn as its primary source of pleasure. And here's where delta phos B comes in. This molecule builds up when you repeatedly engage in high dopamine activities, reinforcing addictive behaviors. Think of it as the architect of addiction. It strengthens the neural pathways that say more, more, more. Now, this wouldn't be such a big deal if your brain was just reacting to porn in isolation. But that's not how it works. These changes affect the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-control, decision-making, and long-term thinking. The more addicted you become, the weaker this area gets. Your impulse control starts to slip. Your ability to resist cravings? It takes a hit. Now, that's why people stuck in the cycle of porn addiction find it so hard to quit, even when they want to. Their brains have been rewired to need it. And unless they consciously break the cycle, those neural pathways don't just go away. Now, let's talk about why people who watch porn regularly often find themselves going down a rabbit hole of more extreme content.
What dark spot facts do we need to know?
So many people think sunspots are from the sun. In fact,
They often find themselves going down a rabbit hole of more extreme content. Remember how I said your brain adapts? Well, the more you expose yourself to porn, the less sensitive your dopamine receptors become. That means what used to excite you no longer has the same effect. So what do? You escalate. You seek out new content, more extreme scenarios, different genres, things you never even imagined yourself watching when you first started. Why? Because your brain is desperate for novelty. It's the only way it can get that same level of dopamine it used to get from much simpler stimulation. This is the exact same pattern we see in substance addiction. Someone who starts with casual drinking might eventually need harder substances to feel the same high. A person who abuses painkillers might escalate to heroin. The brain adapts, and the only way to keep feeling that rush is to up the dosage. And here's where it gets really dangerous. Eventually, nothing is enough. Even the most extreme content stops working. You start feeling numb. Real-life intimacy feels dull. Your baseline levels of dopamine are so low that even everyday pleasures, good food, deep conversations, real attraction, don't give you the satisfaction they used to. This is how porn addiction drains life of its joy. It turns you into a dopamine junkie, constantly chasing a high that keeps getting harder and harder to reach. Porn isn't just something people watch. It's an artificial superstimulus that can rewire your brain, hijack your pleasure system, and make real-life experiences feel less satisfying. And the worst part? Most people don't even realize it's happening until they're already deep in the cycle. But here's the good news. Your brain is incredibly resilient. Just like it adapted to addiction, it can adapt to freedom. The key is recognizing the pattern, breaking the habit, and giving your mind the space to reset. Because at the end of the day, the most fulfilling experiences in life don't come from a screen. They come from real connection, real passion, and real presence. And those things, they're worth rewiring your brain for. All right, let's go even deeper. We've already talked about how porn messes with your brain chemistry, hijacking your dopamine system and rewiring your neural pathways. But what about the way it affects your mind, your decisions, your emotions, your relationships? Because here's the thing, porn isn't just something you consume. It's something that shapes you. The more you watch it, the more it influences how you think, how you feel, and even how you interact with the world. And most people don't even realize it's happening until they wake up one day feeling completely disconnected from reality. Let's break it down. You ever make a dumb decision and wonder, what the hell was I thinking? Well, there's a reason for that. And if you're deep into the porn cycle, that reason might be your brain's orbital frontal cortex getting weaker. This is the part of your brain that helps with impulse control, logical thinking, and long-term decision-making. It's the thing that makes you pause before you do something reckless. It's what stops you from eating an entire cake in one sitting, or sending that risky text at 3 a.m. Now here's the problem. Studies show that porn addiction reduces activity in this region of the brain. And that's a big deal. Because once your impulse control goes down, everything else starts falling apart. You start making dumber choices. Not just about porn, but about life in general. Your focus weakens. You procrastinate more. You start choosing instant gratification over long-term goals. You might even start taking bigger risks without fully thinking them through. And this doesn't just affect your personal life, it bleeds into your work, your relationships, your ambitions. You lose the ability to delay gratification, which is the most important skill for achieving anything meaningful in life. Instead, you're constantly chasing the next quick fix, the next shortcut, the next fleeting hit of pleasure, and that's a recipe for wasted potential. Let's talk about something people don't connect to porn nearly enough. Mental health. We all know that anxiety and depression are on the rise. More people than ever are feeling lost, disconnected, and emotionally drained. But what most people don't realize is how porn plays into this cycle. At first, porn feels like an escape, a way to relieve stress, forget about problems, and get a quick mood boost. But over time, it creates the very problems you were trying to escape from. Remember that massive dopamine rush porn gives you? Well, what goes up must come down. And when it does, you crash hard. That's why after a binge, you might feel drained, unmotivated, or even numb. It's not just guilt. It's your brain struggling to rebalance itself. The more you use porn to regulate your emotions, the less capable you become of handling stress and discomfort in real life. And here's the bigger issue. Porn becomes an escape from real problems. Feeling lonely? Watch porn. Stressed about work? Watch porn. Having relationship issues? Watch porn. It's a coping mechanism, but a toxic one. Because instead of actually facing your struggles, learning how to deal with discomfort, how to build confidence, how to fix what's broken, you just numb yourself. You run away. And the longer you do that, the harder it becomes to face reality. That's why so many people stuck in the cycle of porn addiction feel isolated. They don't just lose interest in relationships, they lose interest in everything. Hobbies, ambitions, friendships, they all start to fade. Because when you train your brain to rely on a screen for fulfillment, nothing else feels worth the effort. Now, let's talk about something even deeper. Something that affects how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you experience relationships. Porn is not reality. You know that logically, but your brain, it doesn't. It takes in what it sees, and over time it reshapes your expectations about sex, about attraction, about intimacy. When you consume hours of porn, your brain starts making comparisons. And guess who usually loses in those comparisons?
Splurged on new devices? Don't skimp on your internet. From streaming to gaming.
Comparisons. And guess who usually loses in those comparisons? You. Suddenly you start feeling inadequate. You start questioning if you measure up. You start seeing flaws that were never a problem before. And this isn't just a male issue. Both men and women suffer from body image distortions because of what they consume. Here's where things get even more twisted. Your brain gets conditioned to artificial stimulation. Porn trains you to expect constant novelty, extreme scenarios, and unrealistic performance. And real-life intimacy? It just doesn't compete. Real relationships take effort. Porn is effortless. Real people have flaws. Porn stars are edited, enhanced, and choreographed. Real attraction is built over time. Porn is instant gratification. So what happens? You start losing interest in real intimacy. Your standards become warped. You might even find yourself bored with normal attraction because your brain has been conditioned to crave supernormal stimulation. And the worst part? This disconnects you from genuine emotional connections. When you've trained your brain to respond to a screen instead of a person, it's not just your sexual experiences that suffer. It's your ability to form deep, meaningful bonds. Conversations feel dull. Relationships feel like effort. You struggle to be present because your brain is constantly seeking something more stimulating, more exciting, more extreme. But life isn't supposed to be a highlight reel of artificial highs. Real intimacy isn't about perfection, it's about connection. And when you let porn reshape your reality, you risk losing the very thing that makes relationships so powerful: authenticity. Porn doesn't just mess with your brain, it reshapes your mind, your emotions, and your perception of reality. It makes you more impulsive, more anxious, more disconnected. It weakens your ability to handle discomfort, to build confidence, to create real bonds. And the scariest part, it happens so slowly that most people don't even notice until they're trapped. But here's what you need to remember. Your mind is yours to shape. You don't have to stay stuck in the cycle. You don't have to keep numbing yourself. You don't have to let a screen dictate your confidence, your happiness, or your relationships. Because real life is out there. And it's a hell of a lot more rewarding than anything you'll ever find on a screen. Alright, let's talk about the elephant in the room. How porn is affecting relationships. Because while most people think of it as a private habit, something that doesn't hurt anyone, the truth is, it's shaping the way we connect with each other. And not in a good way. This isn't just about sex, it's about intimacy. It's about attraction. It's about what happens when your brain gets rewired to crave pixels over people. Here's something wild. Your brain is always learning. Every time you engage in a behavior, your brain builds associations, conditioning itself to expect certain rewards in certain situations. This is what's happening when you train your brain to get off to porn instead of real intimacy. It's called arousal conditioning, and it's messing with people's ability to connect with their partners. Your brain is like a muscle. What you repeatedly expose it to, that's what it adapts to. And when you spend years getting pleasure from artificial stimulation, rapid, on-demand, limitless novelty, you start rewiring your response system. Real sex? It doesn't come with fast cuts, perfect lighting, or endless variety. Real intimacy requires effort, patience, connection. But if your brain has been conditioned to expect supernormal stimulation, real-life attraction starts to feel underwhelming. And for a lot of people, this leads to porn-induced erectile dysfunction, PIED. Yeah, you heard that right. This is a real thing. Younger guys in particular are experiencing increasing rates of erectile dysfunction, not because of physical issues, but because their brains have been rewired to only respond to the hyperstimulation of porn. This isn't just about performance issues. This is about losing attraction to real-life partners. Because when your brain is used to an endless supply of digital fantasy, real intimacy starts to feel like a downgrade. And that destroys relationships. Let's go even deeper. Because porn doesn't just affect how you experience sex, it affects how you see people. Porn isn't just visual stimulation, it's conditioning. It subtly shapes the way you think about attraction, relationships, and intimacy. The problem? A lot of modern porn is built around objectification, dominance, and unrealistic expectations. It reduces people to bodies, stripping away the emotional and relational aspects of intimacy. And the more you consume it, the more your brain internalizes these dynamics, whether you realize it or not. It desensitizes you to real connection. Instead of valuing deep intimacy, you start prioritizing surface-level stimulation.
My mantra is that every next level demands a different you, and Purdue Global is giving me an opportunity.
It lowers empathy. Studies show that frequent porn users have reduced activity in the areas of the brain linked to emotional connection. It fuels intimacy avoidance. Why engage in the vulnerability of a real relationship when a screen offers instant, effort-free gratification? And this is exactly why we're seeing an entire generation struggling with intimacy. More people are avoiding real relationships, not because they don't want connection, but because they've unknowingly conditioned themselves to seek novelty over depth. Let's be real, porn isn't static. People don't just stick to one type of content forever. The more you consume, the more your brain adapts, and the more extreme content you start craving. This is the escalation effect. Studies have shown that frequent porn users are more likely to cheat on their partners. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Porn normalizes seeking novelty. Instead of valuing commitment, it conditions you to constantly chase new stimulation. It weakens relationship bonds. If you're getting your pleasure from a screen, your connection with your partner slowly deteriorates. It makes monogamy feel boring. When your brain expects unlimited variety, the idea of sticking to one person can start to feel restrictive. Now, I'm not saying that watching porn automatically turns you into a cheater, but what I am saying is that it shifts your mindset, whether you realize it or not. It creates a tolerance for detachment, a psychological conditioning that prioritizes novelty over commitment. And if that mindset takes root, it weakens relationships from the inside out. Porn isn't just an innocent habit. It has real measurable effects on how we experience relationships, intimacy, and attraction. It rewires your brain to crave pixels over people. It makes real intimacy feel less satisfying. It reinforces objectification, reducing emotional depth. It fuels the craving for novelty, making commitment harder. The bottom line? If you want deep, fulfilling relationships, you have to break free from the cycle of artificial stimulation. Because real love, real intimacy, real connection, that's something no screen can ever replace. Alright, we've talked about how porn messes with your brain, your emotions, and your relationships. But let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just a you problem. This is a society-wide problem. When millions of people are consuming something compulsively, when an entire generation is being shaped by digital hyperstimulation, it doesn't just affect individuals, it shifts the culture. It changes the way we work, the way we love, and the way we see each other. Let's break down how porn addiction is rewiring society from the ground up. Ever wonder why you feel drained after a porn binge? It's not just physical exhaustion, it's mental depletion. Because porn doesn't just take your time, it takes your drive, ambition, discipline, success. These things come from delayed gratification. The ability to say, I'll work now so I can enjoy the rewards later. Porn, it's the exact opposite. It conditions you to seek instant pleasure with zero effort. Click a button, get a hit. No need to build, no need to chase, no need to earn. And the more you reinforce this pattern, the harder it becomes to push through challenges in other areas of life. Think about it. Why study for hours when your brain is wired to seek quick dopamine hits? Why put in work at the gym when instant pleasure is one tap away? Why build real relationships when fake intimacy is effortless? This is why so many people trapped in porn addiction struggle with motivation, discipline, and career growth. Their brain has been rewired to avoid effort. Because why struggle when there's an easier way to get pleasure? But here's the brutal truth. Nothing worthwhile comes easy. If you want a strong mind, a powerful body, financial freedom, deep relationships, you have to work for them. And if you've trained your brain to settle for quick fixes, you're going to find yourself stuck, stagnant, and wondering why life isn't going anywhere. And that's a slow death. Now, let's talk about how porn has reshaped culture, especially when it comes to sex and relationships. When you're constantly exposed to porn, your expectations change. And when millions of people are watching the same content, those altered expectations become the new normal. Genuine romance requires depth. It's built on emotional connection, trust, and real attraction. But porn has conditioned people to value appearance over connection, lust over love, stimulation over intimacy. That's why so many people today struggle with relationships. Instead of learning how to communicate, how to navigate emotions, how to handle conflict, people are trained to objectify, to seek novelty instead of stability, to chase the next high instead of investing in something real. And it's not just individuals. Look around. Dating apps are built on swiping through faces, not getting to know souls. Social media is flooded with hypersexualized content, reinforcing unrealistic standards. Young people are losing their ability to form deep, meaningful relationships because they've been trained to prioritize appearance over emotional connection. When an entire generation is shaped by digital lust instead of real love, relationships start to collapse. People become more isolated, more anxious, more unfulfilled, and worst of all, most don't even realize why they feel so empty. Now let's address the part that most people don't want to think about. The dark side of the porn industry. Most people assume porn is just entertainment. They don't think about where it comes from, who's involved, or what happens behind the scenes. But here's the reality. Human trafficking is deeply linked to the porn industry. Many performers are exploited, coerced, or manipulated into the industry. Abuse, addiction, and mental health struggles run rampant in the porn world. What are you really supporting? Every time you watch, every time you click, you're sending a message. This industry should keep operating. Now, I'm not saying every performer is a victim, but many are. And the fact that countless people are being used, discarded, and destroyed for the sake of entertainment, that should make anyone think twice. But here's the even bigger issue. What does it do to you when you normalize watching exploitation for pleasure? Because whether you realize it or not, what you consume shapes you. If you train your mind to detach from the reality of suffering, to see people as objects instead of human beings, that conditioning follows you into real life. And that's not just damaging to others, that's damaging to your own soul. Porn isn't just a private habit. It has ripple effects that go far beyond individual pleasure. It kills motivation. It wires your brain for easy pleasure instead of real ambition. It distorts relationships. It makes intimacy harder, commitment weaker, and love shallower. It fuels exploitation. It supports an industry built on manipulation, coercion, and human suffering. So the question isn't just, is porn bad for me? The real question is, what kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be someone who settles for artificial pleasure, loses motivation, and disconnects from real love? Or do you want to be someone who lives fully, loves deeply, and builds something real? Because at the end of the day, life is happening out there, not on a screen. All right, we've gone deep into how porn rewires your brain, weakens your willpower, and messes with your relationships. But here's the good news. You're not stuck. Your brain is like clay. It can be reshaped. Neuroplasticity works both ways. Just like you trained your mind to crave artificial pleasure, you can retrain it to crave real, fulfilling experiences. So, if you're tired of the cycle, if you're done feeling drained and disconnected, if you want to take your power back, this is your roadmap. Let's start with the most important step. Awareness.
Why are women everywhere choosing Abby X, the new tummy tuck alternative? I got the
Let's start with the most important step. Awareness. Because you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. How do you know? If you're addicted, look, I'm not here to diagnose you, but if any of these hit home, it might be time to take a hard look at your habits. You can't stop, even when you try. You tell yourself, this is the last time. But you keep coming back. It's interfering with your life. Your productivity, relationships, sleep, or confidence are taking a hit. You need more extreme content to get the same effect. The stuff that used to excite you doesn't cut it anymore. You feel numb, drained, or guilty afterward. The high doesn't last, and the crash is getting worse. Real intimacy feels less exciting. You find yourself struggling to connect emotionally or physically with a real partner. If any of this sounds familiar, don't ignore it. It's not about shame or guilt. It's about being honest with yourself so you can make a change. Because the longer you wait, the deeper the habit gets. And the deeper it gets, the harder it is to climb out. So how do you break free? You have to rewire your brain. And the best way to do that? Dopamine detox. Your brain is addicted to instant gratification. The goal here is to train it to find pleasure in real, meaningful experiences again. Here's how you do it. Cut the source. No half measures. If you want to break free, you need a full detox. That means no porn, no edging, no quick fixes. Replace the habit. Your brain needs something else to latch onto. Exercise, learning a skill, deep conversations. Give your mind something worth craving. Embrace boredom. Dopamine detox isn't just about quitting porn. It's about rewiring your brain to enjoy life again. Let yourself be bored. Train yourself to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. Get into deep work. The best way to break an addiction? Find something harder, more fulfilling, and more rewarding than the addiction itself. Be patient. Your brain didn't get wired overnight and it won't reset overnight. But if you stick with it, you'll start to feel a shift. Your thoughts drive your actions. And if you've been trapped in the cycle of addiction, chances are your thought patterns have been hijacked. CBT and mindfulness can help you break free by recognizing triggers. What emotions or situations push you toward watching porn? Stress, boredom, loneliness? Once you identify them, you can start dealing with the root cause instead of escaping into a screen. Interrupting the cycle. Instead of going into autopilot, practice stopping yourself and making a conscious choice. The more you do this, the weaker the habit becomes. Rewriting your story. Your addiction isn't you, it's a habit you picked up. The more you separate yourself from it, the easier it is to break free. And if this feels too big to tackle alone, find a support group. Get professional help. There's zero shame in asking for guidance. If anything, it's a sign of strength. Once you start rewiring your brain, something incredible happens. You begin to crave real connection again. One of the biggest problems with porn addiction is that it trains you to expect pleasure instantly. In the real world, that's not how things work. Deep relationships take time. Attraction grows with connection. And if you want to experience real intimacy, you have to unlearn the need for instant highs. Here's how. Be present. Instead of chasing stimulation, learn to be fully engaged in the moment. Listen, observe, feel, build tension. Real attraction isn't about instant gratification. It's about the buildup, the anticipation, the emotional depth. Develop patience, love, success, confidence. They all require long-term investment. The more you train yourself to wait for deeper rewards, the more fulfilling life becomes. You don't just quit porn, you replace it. Because if you leave an empty space, your brain will go looking for the old habit. So ask yourself, what's something meaningful you can pour your energy into? Fitness. Build a stronger body. Regain your confidence. Learning a skill. Challenge your brain. Create something valuable. Building relationships. Connect with real people. Strengthen your social skills. Spirituality or mindfulness. Get back in touch with yourself. Learn to control your impulses. The goal isn't just to quit something bad, it's to build something great. This one's huge. A lot of people use porn because they're avoiding emotional discomfort. They don't know how to handle loneliness, rejection, stress, so they escape into a digital world where nothing is complicated. But real relationships require vulnerability. You have to open up. You have to deal with the messiness of human connection. You have to face discomfort instead of running from it. And yeah, that's scary. But it's also where real intimacy is built. Look, quitting porn isn't just about giving something up. It's about reclaiming your life. It's about taking back control of your mind, finding real motivation and ambition, building deeper, more meaningful relationships, learning how to enjoy life again without needing artificial stimulation. And yeah, it's going to be hard at first. Your brain is going to crave the old habit. But every time you resist, you get stronger. Every time you choose real life over a screen, you get closer to freedom. Because here's the truth. You are not your addiction. You are stronger than your impulses. You have the power to rewire your brain, rebuild your confidence, and take back control. And when you do, life opens up in ways you never imagined. All right, let's bring this home. We've covered a lot. How porn rewires your brain, weakens your willpower, messes with your relationships, and even impacts society as a whole. But here's the thing. None of this is about guilt. This isn't about shaming anyone. This is about truth. Because the truth is, porn isn't just harmless entertainment. It's a super stimulus that hijacks your brain's reward system, making real life feel dull in comparison. It drains your motivation, weakens your discipline, distorts your view of intimacy, and keeps you stuck in a cycle of instant gratification. And most people never even realize it's happening. But now,
no one seems to know this, but Amazon actually has a $50 million fund that they have to pay out.
realize it's happening. But now, you know, you see the pattern, you understand the science. You've got the wisdom to recognize what's been holding you back. And that's power. Because the moment you become aware of a problem, you take away its ability to control you. You stop being a passive participant in your own life and start taking charge of your own mind. The choice is yours. Look, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but if you've been feeling numb, unmotivated, disconnected, you owe it to yourself to at least try breaking free. Try stepping away. Try rewiring your brain. Try rediscovering what real passion, real connection, real fulfillment feels like. Because at the end of the day, you have two paths in front of you. Keep feeding the addiction. Keep numbing yourself, chasing artificial highs, letting your potential slip away. Take back control. Start rebuilding your mind, your confidence, your relationships, your life. And yeah, the second path is harder. It takes effort, patience, and discipline. But guess what? Everything worthwhile does. What do you really want? Think about the moments in life that actually made you feel alive. The ones that left you fulfilled, inspired, connected. Was it watching pixels on a screen? Or was it real experiences, achieving something difficult, falling in love, creating something meaningful, pushing past your limits? Because that's what life is supposed to feel like. Deep, rich, full of purpose. Not just chasing dopamine spikes that leave you empty afterward. Porn will never love you back. It will never fulfill you. It will never make you a better man or woman. It just takes. It drains your energy, your time, your focus, without ever giving anything real in return. But life, real life, it's waiting for you. The only question is, are you ready to take it back?